Yeah, what a fucking banger, man. I mean, that's definitely my favorite off the single, which congratulations, by the
Yeah,
way.
thank you.
That
Yes.
really kind of just set the mood for, like, I guess the intensity that you guys wanted to bring out of that music. I mean,
Yeah.
what was the inspiration behind most of that stuff? Because it just fueled me, dude, like, completely.
What, what's weird about that specific song was that it was one of the first songs we wrote together in a room where it was me and Carlo and Donnie, and we wrote that during the Exposition One recording. So when we went to record Exposition One, we showed up to Brian McTernan's studio, and we had 12 days total with him. And he wanted us to go in and just write more songs because we came in with three songs, two of them which were demos
Hmm.
that didn't make the cut because he. It's not that he didn't like him; he just didn't think we had our sound yet. We hadn't figured out our sound,
Hmm.
and so he was like, "Just go in that room and just write for the next couple days." And he gave us the keys to his studio, 24-hour access.
Oh, wow.
He like gave me access to his computer, which was one of the first times a producer, or the first time a producer ever let me do that.
Hmm.
And yeah, we wrote. The working title was Balto, but yeah, we the Greater Cause was like one of the songs that we wrote in that session,
Hmm.
and so that's what's cool about that specific one is because then track two, Hurt the Worst, off of Exposition 3, was an instrumental demo that I had written 2 years, like almost 3 years ago now.
Okay.
And we used it because Donnie wrote, when Donnie was doing pre-production for vocals for Expedition, for Nova, just in general, he flew out to Long Island before we recorded anything with 4 song demos.
Hmm.
And Queen Space, which is the working title for Hurt the Worst, was one of those. So it's weird. And then the last track off Expedition 3, we wrote like 3 hours before we had to record it. So
Oh, wow. I'm sure Carla liked that one. You know what I mean?
yeah, he was we were all stressed out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've
But
had conversations where when my band goes into the studio as well to record, like sometimes you change things last minute.
yeah,
John, our mutual friend John Howe, who works for Fearless Records, great fucking dude. I
yeah,
love that guy. Which, by the way, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. This is fucking sick, man. I can't wait to see you guys when this quarantine's done and over with.
yeah.
But back what I was saying, it's one of those things that, especially when I'm in the studio, I always find a little like feel that I want to change up like last minute. Once
Yeah.
that record button starts going. So, I mean, were you guys stressing that hard on the last song? Because the first two sound fantastic. So,
Well, we had a song that everybody else thought that we were going to record, and I guess it was my lack of communication that did it. It was just not clear to them that I didn't want to do that song anymore
mhm.
for a couple reasons. Donnie wrote it lyrically about something that pertained to him, but also heavily pertained to me. That at that point I was like, I'm not feeling this anymore. And then also instrumentally, I wasn't a big fan of it, and
Mhm.
so I was like, I don't want to do that song anymore. But I think they thought they were going to convince me once we got to the studio. But I put my foot down and was like, dude, I really don't want to do this song anymore. And I thought I had been pretty clear, so we just had to write another one
Okay.
on the spot.
Hmm.
So that's how the working title for that song was Maroon, which is what we still call it.
Hmm.
But it's Float Up, Stay There now. That's what's the last track on Expedition 3.
I like the way how you guys are releasing these singles because I know Donnie's in Hail the Sun, and I also know that you and so does everybody else viewing. That you're in multiple projects, not
Yeah.
projects, but bands. You have Royal Coda, you have Stolas, you have.
Oh, Stolas isn't active anymore. That
Okay.
band broke up, but
But
yeah.
you've involved yourself with so many bands. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that you're always doing something, regardless whether it's with a past band that's obviously not together anymore, or
Yeah.
in the present.
Yeah.
You guys I love the PR marketing behind it because you guys released 3 singles called Exposition 1, 2, and 3. What was that the intention going into creating Nova Charisma, or
Um,
how did that happen?
It happened because we couldn't decide on who to go to for a whole full length.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually an idea that our label pitched. They were like, well, it's not something we would have ever thought of because it's kind of expensive to not only fly around the country to 3 different studios and 3 different points in the country, but to work with 3 different producers for just a handful of songs. It was pricey, but the label was down for it, and so that's why, because we didn't want to like mix and match and like, because they're all different sounds, and each producer brought a different sound to, and like I can listen to, maybe others don't necessarily do this, but I'm close enough to it that I can listen to it and go, oh, this sounds like Brian, this sounds like Mike Watts, this sounds like Chris Crummett. So that's why we didn't want to put them all in one collection of songs, and so we're like, let's just roll them out as I wanted to use the word Exposition, and let's just do 1, 2, and 3 for now, and everybody went for it, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's been fun because we get to choose new artwork for each time, and I don't know, it's like it's encapsulating of the time that we spent at each specific studio. So
yeah, the quality of the artistic like ideas behind each single of 3 songs, I mean, you can definitely tell there's a vibe, there's not really this theme, but there's this like aurora that comes through each single because of the fact that's the way you guys are writing it. And I don't see a lot of bands or artists doing that in general. I mean, you know, it's always been the normal standard, like release a full-length album, have an acoustic track on there somewhere, have an interlude somewhere. Like, that's just your regular routine. But I like this approach. I really do. It's just one of those things that, like I said, I don't see a lot of. So, I mean, I'm sure we're going to expect more. I mean, congratulations on the release. It was a huge success. I think you guys sold out with your first vinyl.
And then earlier we got a text message from the label saying that the white vinyl, which is the second one we put up, is well on its way to also selling out. So that's really cool. I don't know. And then it's happened with every exhibition. The 1 and 2, the first one sold out in less than 24 hours without anybody having heard any music. So that was really cool. We just announced the band, which is something I was opposed of initially because the people in our team were like, we should announce the band, and in that same post, announce that we have vinyl. And I was like, I don't know if I want to come out of the gate trying to sell somebody something. But I went with it. I was like, let's just see what happens, I guess. And it worked. People bought, I think we sold out of 500 vinyl without anybody actually having heard any music.
Well, I mean, that is the product too. I mean, people love these hands-on things. It's not like you guys are releasing a bag or some kind of merchandise. Like you're releasing a physical copy of something that they enjoy. Right. So,
but it still felt a little bit like, I don't know. It's just still something I'm always trying to get comfortable with is like the fact that we have to sell material goods to make a living.
Yeah.
But with vinyl, it's cool because it's music. So. It's the physical manifestation of for me, a lot of things: the studio time, the travel, just the music, everything. But so that's cool. At least it's vinyl.
Did you guys already have a discussion about touring? I mean, I know the pandemic happened, so everybody's basically at standstill. But you guys have that? Did you have that conversation? I'm sure you had the conversation at one point because
we actually had a tour we were going to announce. That was supposed to be in June. In July, we were going to do a full U.S. tour, which now is not looking like it happened. Yeah, but are you talking about initially?
Yeah, just initially yourself, because I mean, you have Royal Coda and Nova Charisma that are active, so it's like you can jump back and forth.
Touring is always will always be a part of every active band that I play in, or at least playing shows. Yeah. So right off the bat, we didn't talk about it all that much, but we knew exactly what we wanted if we were to do a tour. And we did exactly that. We got our friend Joe to play keys, Carlo on drums, which he wrote and recorded all those drums. And Hail the Sun's guitar player Eric Garcia played bass for us because he's originally a bass player. So he plays bass in Nova Charisma, what we call the live group. That's our live chat. We have a Nova Charisma live group chat where we are all in there, and send each other funny pictures. But yeah,
those group chats get pretty.
Yeah, we that's what we initially wanted was we knew me and Donnie knew exactly the people we would want to try to recruit and play shows with, and we made it happen in December. And in January, which is probably going to be the only show I am to play this year, was we played London on January 17th, which was cool. So,
thanks to Roy Belmont. He said Nova has become my favorite band. After other projects. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's so different from the other bands that you've been performing with. I mean, with Will Coda, I mean, you're hooking up with Will Swan and doing all that jazz. Do you guys have any plans on releasing new music at all?
Will Coda?
Mm-hmm.
Will Coda has a single that we were going to put out on the DGD tour we were supposed to be on, but because that tour got canceled and now we're not on that tour at all, it's still up in the air, but we do have a single. It's locked and loaded, so we're just waiting for the opportunity to put that thing out.
I think this is just a personal thing I kind of want to ask you, because being in so many bands in New Jersey, like, we basically swap around each other all the time. So, like, everybody's played with everybody in New Jersey. But, like, if you could rate the bands that you've not only written for but have played shows with, or just overall in general, if you could rate them from your favorite to your least favorite, could you do that real quick?
Rate them.
Your favorite act to be in now is so, then this. Then
I don't think I could, because each one taught it. The ones in the past, the ones are now is it defunct? I guess is the word. Bands that just aren't active. The two main being were Sianvar and Stolas. Taught me a lot. They taught me so much, and I don't know. Those were, like, I think the hardest times I had being in a band. I mean, not to say that I'm much further along than I was at those 2 points, being in Sianvar and Stolas, but I've definitely come away from that. I don't know. I don't think I could rate them.
You have all your kids. They're not, you don't have a favorite kid. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. That's how that's a good analogy. Especially Stolas, because that thing really started with just us wanting to play music. Sianvar is kind of similar, but, like, Royal Coda was put together in other ways that had more to do with the business side of things. Like, oh, I have this collection of songs I need someone to sing on. I'll hire Kurt. And then Kurt was like, let's tour. So I don't know. They were birthed in different ways, but Sianvar and Stolas really came from a point of it's just a couple people wanting to play music together. And that's what it always feels like I'm just trying to get back to. It's just making music for the sake of making it, and experiencing the fact that I and my friends have this ability to make music. And so,
What I like about that, though, is you guys all kind of write together and play shows and write music together. I mean, that's such a creative aspect in my mind. I mean, you collaborate with Will Swan from DGD, and you actually, co-wrote some of the songs, 3 songs in particular, on Afterburner, correct?
I wrote 2, and then I just played on 1. So the other one, the Nothing Shameful, was already written completely. And the way it happened, the way that song came to be was me. I flew into Sacramento because I had to house sit Will's house, and before he took off, and
his haunted house.
No, this is a different one.
Oh, okay.
It's not haunted. And I had to house sit for him, but before he left, he's like, hey, he picked me up from the airport, and we went to go eat. And then after we ate, he goes, hey, I have to run to the studio really quick. Do you mind coming with me? And I was like, no, I don't mind. And so we went to meet up with Tim, who tracks a lot of the demos for DGD. We went to his little studio, and we just kept passing the guitar back and forth, writing different parts. So I did play all the parts on Nothing Shameful, but I wrote, I don't know if I could even, maybe half or a little bit more than half of those guitar parts. But what was cool about that is just we Will would play something. He's like, I don't know what to do here, and then he'd hand me the guitar, and I would lay something down, and then the next part would happen, and I'd be like, I don't know what to do here, and I'd give the guitar back, and yeah, that was really cool. But the other two, Prisoner and Born to Fail, which the working title, I always refer to them as their working titles, which is Moon Coast, were ideas I've had for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that song, Born to Fail, I have demos of from around Stolas' time, and then at one point, me, Corey Lockwood from A Lot Like Birds, and Carlo were talking about starting a band. So we wrote a heavy song so we could give Corey to scream on, and that's why it starts so heavy. But then nothing came to be of that, so I just kept like moving those ideas around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a cool collaboration. There was a bunch of features on the album, including you. That must have been an intention going into it because it's not so different. I mean, they definitely experimented a little bit. It's not as I think Mothership was a great album that kind of pushed through a lot of what they were working on, like around like not one individual sound, but like kind of like fed off from each other from song to song. But Afterburner, it's cool that you guys had like a collaboration with everybody that's in that little clique. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool.
Yeah, the usual.
I've never seen anything like it.
Martin's on it, Zach's on it, Andrew's on it. Yeah, it's cool, and I'm just happy and grateful to be a part of it.
Did you? Yeah. Did you?
Go ahead.
No, did you start working with them when you used to be their guitar tech for DGD? Like, is that how the relationship built? Starting from there?
Actually, I don't know if I went into it with because Donnie and I have the first Nova Charisma podcast episode recorded. I don't think I went into it. No, I didn't. But I maybe touched on it briefly. That I met Will because I was on tour with Hale as their as a fill-in guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
So Donnie asked me to fill in, Shane. I needed to fill in for Shane, and the tour was Dance Gavin Dance, A Lot Like Birds, I the Mighty, Hail the Sun, and The Orphan the Poet. And I did half of that tour as a fill-in. And on the second day of that tour, Josh Benton, who was playing guitar at the time for Dance Gavin Dance, was like, "Hey, can you guitar tech for me? Like, can you just set up my gear, set up my amp and stuff?" I was like, "Sure." And then as the tour progressed, they started giving me more and more responsibilities, and then eventually I just was riding on the bus with them, and that's how I started talking to Will a lot more. And he had told me he had been thinking about starting a label, and he
that was basically your idea for the label, right?
That was Will's.
That was Will's? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, that was not my idea at all.
Okay.
That was Will. Will had been talking about starting a record label for a long time, apparently, and had tried with other bands, but they were bands that weren't committed or like just weren't. They were, committed, I guess is a good word. They weren't full-time musicians. And, not to say Stolas was at that time, but we were a lot more hungry and were willing to tour as much as possible. And so,
as vice president of that label, like, is that what you look for in bands when you sign them? Like bands that are hungry, that have that full-time drive. That
definitely helps.
Yeah,
that helps a lot. Yeah, it's not all we look for, but it definitely helps because that just shows that they care. That's really it. It's like, but it's hard to get somebody to care about your thing if you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what Will saw in me when he first met me. Plus, I was 18 or 19 at the time.
Wow! Yeah.
And I was. I mean, I'm still hungry, and which is why I've been a part of so many projects, and it just kind of has transformed as the years went on. But it definitely helps to to really give a fuck about what you're doing.
Like you're not doing it just to say, "Hey, look, I'm signed to a label. Look, we're fucking cool now." And like that's it. It's like put some more work into it, guy, like or girl. Come on, like it's not that crazy. Well, around that age, was that when you were basically either finishing the Las Vegas performing arts school? Is that basically when?
And that was after. So I finished high school, and I started touring almost immediately.
That's fucking sick.
I did a semester of community college, but it, God, even thinking back to those classes, I feel anxiety about how I felt about being in those classes because they weren't. I was just like, this is not where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I gotta get out of here.
You already know. Mm-hmm.
And I started touring as much as I could. And that's why I took a lot of guitar teching gigs. Because it meant that I got to travel and go on the road, even if it meant that I wasn't actually on stage playing, which I try not to do so much anymore. Mm-hmm. Although right now I would fucking take it if it meant that I could go on tour during this pandemic.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't happening.
I know, yeah, because we had like a couple shows lined up, and they were basically canceled because they weren't tours, they weren't weekenders, they weren't guaranteed, money gigs. So it was just one of those things that like we'll just push it aside, and when this is done over with, we'll do another tour. But I mean, dude, the tour horrors I've had, holy shit! Like I remember I played a weekender with an old metalcore band, and like for whatever reason my drum set just completely fell apart. Like my floor tom, the legs started to go, the cymbals started to drop on the boom stands. I'm like, what the fuck? Like it was just one of those things that I've never seen anything like that. And like I don't think I've had any other horrible like tour stories. Some people have like really serious nightmare situations, and thank God I haven't put myself into that. You never had those, right? Besides the one time where that amp blew up that you were basically borrowing. Like it wasn't anything significant. However,
I've had some pretty bad moments on stage. I had one time a friend bought me a beer, and then that beer was placed on my cab. And the way I set up my cabs in my head is I set up my road case with my head on top of it next to the cab, and someone put the beer on the cab. And I went to go stand on it, and I knocked the beer straight into my head, and it just blew up right then and there.
No,
yeah, and I just kicked my head. I was so mad that I just kicked my head. I thought I broke it at the time because then,
yeah, you definitely broke it. That you kicked it. You know what I mean? Like
actually, it survived.
Okay, good.
What's super weird because I like stormed off stage to go find another amp. Mm-hmm. While I remember exactly where it was. I remember exactly what venue, and I remember exactly what song we were playing. It was during a Stolas tour at Brick and Mortar in San Francisco on January fucking 12th, probably of 2017. I think I don't know, and. I stormed off stage with the amp. It was during a song called Circuit Theory, and during that song, we would go into this long jam. Mm-hmm. And luckily, it happened around that time, so the band just kept playing as I went to go look for another amp. And thankfully, one of the bands on the bill let me borrow his head, and I finished the set. That was bad. That was a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's nothing as significant as like I don't know, what's her name? The SNL mishap where she was lip syncing and she basically got caught. Ashley Simpson. Yeah. Hopefully it's nothing bad like that, but obviously because we're musicians and we don't play it. I mean, backtracks are normal. They fill the void. They fill the void of like what the song is. So I mean. But with especially with vocals, I think they're not unnecessary all the time. But if you have them, it's not the end of the world. I think that kind of enhances the performance because maybe it gives that vocalist a break. Considering the fact that some bands I don't think can have a guitar player or a bass player or a drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, Donnie could just do it all by himself, dude. When I saw Donnie on Warped Tour 2016, he was still drumming for him and singing. I'm like, I was like, they
Yeah.
gotta find a drummer. This dude's probably exhausted.
They had Alan at that time, I think. Alan did Warped Tour with them at that time.
Okay.
So, but he played more of the set because now Donnie does maybe 25% of the set on drums
Mm-hmm.
for Hale, but
Mm-hmm.
at that time it was probably 50-50. So, but Alan was there. I remember him touring with them at that time.
Did you ever go on Warped Tour? Was that ever something you went
No,
on to?
I played one-off Warped Tour shows,
Mm-hmm.
but I never actually went on the tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. It's just one of those things. I was telling you earlier before we started the podcast, like, I think Kevin just wanted to stop it because people just kept complaining. Like, there was no community there. The community was lacking. So
I heard he was happy to get to the 25th year, and then that was it. But I don't know the guy personally, so I'm not sure.
we talked for a little bit. He when we were on the tour for 2017, but the community's just not there, which is it makes sense considering the fact that people don't want to. Like, oh, why is this band on stage? Like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody's just here to have a good time. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the longest you really toured for? I mean, I'm sure it was like a couple months with. Like,
I've had long stretches. Most DGD tours I've ever done as a support band, those are usually 5 to 6 weeks. There was a period where Stolas was doing back-to-back touring. Like one time we did a tour with Let Live, had 5 days off, 4 or 5 days off, and then immediately went into a Dance Gavin Dance tour. We did a tour where we did our own headliner for 5 weeks, had 4 days off, and then immediately went on a tour with Dance Gavin Dance for 3 weeks. So yeah, I used to be gone a lot more. Now I'll look back on some of the tours we did. Like we did an Al Maternal tour for Stolas' second record, and that tour was 5 weeks long. It wasn't. It's not that weird to have like a 5-week long tour, month long full US. But the tour we were about to do that would have been done by now. That Dance Gavin Dance tour was 6 weeks long.
Incredible lineup too. Issues, Maya, Royal Coda, Animals Leaders. Jesus Christ, man, that was like the most progressive bill I've seen in a while.
And I'm a huge Animals as Leaders fan, so I was looking forward to not just being able to talk with those guys, but to just watch them every night. And it was not to be, which is okay.
I hope it happens though. I think it's one of those tours that I'm sure will be postponed and not canceled.
It will. Yeah. We won't be on it. So,
really,
it's Wolf and Bear. Yeah, Wolf and Bear is going to be on it. So there's one of 5. Just scheduling conflicts.
True. What do you think the next step is for you? I mean, you've done you're already successing in releasing music with Royal Coda and as well as Nova Charisma. You're touring. You're doing that. Like, what do you think? Like the next big thing is for you, like, because I we're an underground band still, so we'll just do weekenders. Like, we're signed to a small label, but we won't sacrifice going on tour. Like, we're not like there yet, but like the music's nice to record and shit. But like, what do you think the next step is for you? You guys have so much going on. I feel like, there's what's next.
I don't know. I like not knowing because I feel like if I knew, I'd be bored of it already. I'm like, well, I know what's coming, so I feel like it should always stay a surprise, because I kind of joked to myself. I didn't say this really to anybody, that I was like, maybe I should take a year off because I've been right out of high school. I started touring and traveling and recording, and I haven't stopped. So maybe I should for a little bit. Maybe I should do just where I just don't do anything music related. I don't tour. I'll just do a year off, and because my friend Corey Lockwood. Birds, he talked to me about that because that's what he did. He didn't tour for a while. He was dealing with some house stuff, but he said it was one of the best things that he could have done for himself, was just to kind of take a break. And now that's here for me. I literally can't tour even if I wanted to. Like I've been in a situation where I'm bored as fuck, and I know friends of mine are touring, and I'll go and join them for a little bit, or I'll travel. I'll find a reason to travel because I can't sit still. And, now I'm literally immobile. Like I can't go on tour. I can't do the things I would normally do if I was feeling antsy to just go and do something. So that's been extremely beneficial for me, and whether it seemed like it or not at first. And so, I don't know what the next move is. I don't know what the next move is because touring is gone for the foreseeable future. So, tours have been the thing that helped me make the more pivotal moments in my music career. Like because I've met people on the road, and that's where things mostly happen that are significant. So that's gone now. So I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that's okay.
I thought about getting into like recording, like mixing and producing and shit. Did you ever think of that? I don't know. Like I'm not that good at it, but I do some demos or whatever. I don't know.
I do demos. Like that's why I have like this keyboard right here, and I have my interface, and I do demos for everything. Like Sianvar, Stolas, Coda. I recorded our demos are like rough song skeletons, but nothing that I would ever put out myself. So, but I already do that, and I'm comfortable with that. Like I'd like to get as good as I can recording, but to become like a kind of a producer or some sort of engineer, I don't think that's in my wheelhouse right now because it's not something that I actively want to pursue. I just want to get good at recording my own demos.
What about lessons? I feel like lessons would be like I feel like you get a huge clientele with if you did lessons, like if you did one-on-ones.
I did some couple years ago when I first kind of started picking up steam with Blue Swan, and I did. Although I had a problem with having a lot of people take one lesson and it being mostly them asking me what it's like to work with Will Swan and Johnny Craig and Kurt Travis and all these other people because Living Creatures had just come out. So that's mostly what people were asking me. And then they would just take one lesson and then we wouldn't progress into what I thought was like going to be the next, all right, we'll do this for the next lesson and et cetera, like just moving forward.
Yeah.
So, I've been hesitant to do that ever since because I wouldn't want that to happen again because that kind of feels like a cash grab. Even if it might not feel like to them, it's like, oh, they're paying to hang out with me, for me to just talk at them and not really teach them at anything.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. My mentor, he was a well-renowned musician back in his day when he was a studio musician from New York. Fortunately for him, his career was awesome and successful, as well as his son. His son's Frank Iyer in My Chemical Romance. So when he would teach these lessons, he would get students like that all the time. Like they would learn something and then they just bombard him for like 15, 20 minutes. And I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm sure he kind of felt the same way with you. It's like, I kind of just want to teach. Like I teach too a little bit. Like I have students. So, I mean, I don't have that, background in me with, knowing certain people or whatever. But it's probably frustrating for sure because like you just want to teach them and that's your passion. So it's like, come on, let's get this lesson.
There's that and not wanting to feel like I robbed someone out of money just because it's easy to talk about that stuff. So if I'm getting paid for it, I feel cheap. So that's why I kind of didn't want to do it because it's like, it's a way to make money, but if it's just if it's not me teaching and me learning how to be a better teacher, then it doesn't feel worth it. But I don't know. I've been thinking about it the more this quarantine and self-isolation has gone on. So, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on whether or not I should do lessons again.
Yeah, that'd be cool for the people watching. I mean, hey, like he's considering it, so let's keep your eyes and ears open. And you're pretty flexible on Instagram and social media, which is fucking cool. A lot of musicians don't take the time to do that. They just kind of release music and just chill. So you're very engaged with everybody. I like that. You're very personal. Well, it's fucking cool.
I wasn't until the quarantine and the self-isolation because I don't know. The more and more as I get older, the more I realize how feeling more private is, or having kind of like a private life feels. It's nicer than feeling like I'm constantly pursuing to be more of a public figure, which was a part of my initial. It's always a component to having a music career. It's like, how public am I going to become? Um, so, which is okay. It's not a bad thing to be a public figure. But I don't consider myself that at all. So it would feel like I'd be more uncomfortable with it. But with the quarantine and the self-isolation, I was like, well, why not? Who cares? I'll go on live and talk to Donnie or talk to Carlo or play songs for people because it's fun. And
did they play people, Medusa? And you're like, yeah, sure. Let me try to
that's
bring
cool.
this back around. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people message me and they're like, hey, I was having a shitty day, but your live stream made me feel better. And I'm like, cool, that's cool. I'm glad I was able to do that. So,
yeah, that's what a lot of people look forward to and stuff. Going back to with your writing and everything, like it must have took a while to kind of collaborate with your musicians, like in your bands, like not in a negative way, but in a progressive, like positive, like a positive momentum going forward. Like when you started working with Blue Swan for Coda, like was it very not difficult, but was it kind of easier to get into it because you both kind of have been working together for a little bit, as well as like Royal Coda, or Nova Charisma? Like, was it a different? Like, how do you share those experiences with other artists in those bands? You know what I mean? Like, writing.
Will has always been surprisingly comfortable to work and write with. I've never been intimidated by him. If anything, I've been more intimidated by Joe because he's such an incredible drummer. But that went away within the first year because Sianvar started writing in April of 2013. So 7 years now that me and Will have been collaborating, and so that went away pretty fast. And so going from Sianvar into Royal Coda, it was very similar. And with Donnie, for Nova Charisma, we brought in Carlo, who I've been very comfortable with for years, almost 10 years now, playing music with him. And but there was less cooks in the kitchen. Like while Carlo contributes a ton to Nova Charisma, I can still feel that he tries to give me and Donnie the reign because it's technically me and Donnie in the band. We're the two in the photo shoots. We're the branded Nova Charisma. So it just was less cooks in the kitchen, which is freeing, but also a little bit more pressure is on myself as an individual to make a decision, and then hope that decision is a smart, creative decision.
Do the producers kind of take, do they kind of throw in their 2 cents as well during those processes? Yeah, that's cool.
Brian did, and we wrote a lot of the songs that ended up being recorded on Exposition 2 and Exposition 3 with Brian. So, like I mentioned earlier, Greater Cause was written at Brian's studio. Sonia, which is the last track off of Expedition 2, and Diary, which is the first one off Expedition 2, were written at Brian's studio. And then, aside from Lies Animals Tell, we wrote all of Expedition 1 at Brian's studio. And there were days where he'd leave us alone, we would write, and then he'd come in and ask us to play the song with him just sitting in a chair in the room with us, and then be like, that's cool, let's record it, and then listen back, and then see what we want to manipulate and change. So he had a big hand in it. So by the time we went in to do Expedition 2 and 3, everything was more or less finalized. Although Crummett did, for that one song off the last track off Expedition 3, which we wrote 3 hours before we had to track it, Crummett came in and was like, all right, do this. I like that. I don't like this. We should change this. And so the producers definitely have a hand in it. Just maybe I would say 15 to 20% during the tracking process.
Okay, that's good. I was going to say he's not restructuring anything, or he's just kind of giving ideas to what's being played.
Notation changes. So let's change the bass note here because it creates more of a nicer chord voicing. So that kind of thing. But very, very minimal changes, nothing crazy.
That's good, and I'm sure you know that going into it as well. But each Nova Charisma single was a different producer, so you're still. Are you still looking for that one producer? Are you just going to keep continuing this? Because it's cool regardless. I think it's artistically it's pretty smart. Like, I think it's pretty genius. So
I don't want to do. To be honest, I'd love to do the same thing again and just do. Because it'd be so hard to just pick one person, especially after the process we just went through. I personally would love to do Exposition 4, 5, and 6 and do it in the same way, but part of me is also like, well, I've already done that, so do something else, or else you're not being creative. You're doing the same thing.
True.
So, but I don't know. We haven't decided yet, and I'm actually me and Carla are supposed to write at some point today, but we're still in the process of writing new songs. We really only have like 2 or 3 new songs for Nova Charisma right now, so.
It's a good start. I mean, it's not like you're going in the studio with like an album's worth and you have to pick like 3 or 4 songs.
No,
that would be hard. You know,
we and I'd like it so that I'd like to have to do 10 and go into the studio with 6 and then write 4 in the studio, because there's something about writing in the studio that you get results that you don't get when you have more time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Have you ever toured in Canada? It's a fucking gorgeous country, man.
Yeah, I love Canada. I love Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver. Yeah.
It's so clean, and the scenes out there are incredible. The Toronto scene's nice. I think it was like one of my favorite tours. We did a weekender up there back in 2015. Do you guys normally go up there often, or like it just depend
now
on?
We do. Okay, now we play Toronto pretty regularly.
So New York City, but up north and really clean, like really clean.
Fucking love Toronto.
It's gorgeous, dude. It's gorgeous. The locals say that it's more so of like, overrated New York City, Big Apple kind of thing. I was like, I don't know. I kind of disagree. Yeah. This is nice.
No, I love Toronto. I love Canada.
Yeah, Ottawa, everything. I've never been outside the country, besides Canada, in regards to like the Eastern Hemisphere. Maybe one day, but I'm sure. Like, have you ever toured out there? I've never heard of.
We played London.
Doing that?
But that's the only show. But I've gone to England twice, and I've gone to Paris. I've been to China. Weirdly enough, I've traveled a lot with family and friends, but not specifically for shows.
I was gonna say specifically for shows. Yeah, I mean, because if it was, I was gonna say like, how do you make that?
I played Mexico, and I played with Chiodos for very briefly, and we played Mexico. That was my first shows with them.
Rest in peace. Love that band.
Yeah, Chiodos. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I was always curious, like, how do you make that decision? Like, what comes down to it? Is it the engagement through a website like, say, Spotify? Like, we have 100,000 listeners in the UK. Maybe we should play a one-off show there or a festival there, or maybe the bill's good. Like, I've never really had an insight to that at all. Did you guys?
It's a little bit of that, but mostly like, let's just go do this because we don't normally do it. Mm-hmm. With Nova, we wanted to do something. With Nova Charisma specifically, we wanted to do something that we haven't normally done with our other bands. None of our other bands have flown to shows just to do that. Like, we flew to 5 different shows across the U.S. in December, just because we were trying to challenge ourselves and just to do something that we hadn't already done with our other bands. Mm-hmm. Which was the goal, which is continually the goal moving forward with anything I do musically or creatively. Is just, I'm tired of doing the same thing I've already done. Mm-hmm. And by definition, that's not being creative because I've already gone there. So that's what I'm using that to apply to, like, the decisions we made. So yeah, Nova was like, let's just do something we haven't already done, which meant flying. And so we picked London because we're like, that's a major city and we want to play out there. And that's where we started Nova Charisma. Me and Donnie flew to London to start writing together last January. So
Mhm.
That's where we started. So we're like, we should try to get our start out here and start building our band out here in Europe
Hmm.
instead of the U.S., which is what our bands normally do. And we would have done more of it, but then this fucking global pandemic happened. So
Yeah, no, this is putting everything to a stop. I mean, there's so many tours that are being postponed, if not canceled, which fucking sucks, dude. Like, and there's nothing you could do. One of the tours I was looking forward to was an MCR tour, US tour. That hasn't been canceled or postponed yet, so we'll see what happens. But I really wanted to go to the 10-year anniversary of Blue Sky Noise with Circa.
Oh yeah,
and they were ready to go. However, the school started shutting down in Pennsylvania. So they're like, let's fucking take a step back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's not take that risk. And thank God they didn't because everything got completely shut down. I can't even get a fucking haircut during these times, dude. Like, I'm wearing a hat in all of these, like, podcasts that I'm doing. I'm sure people are like, dude, it's probably sweating bullets. I'm like, yeah, but one, I'm not cutting my own hair. Two, I don't want to shave it off. But I could tame this beard. I just don't want to let this, like, plus I'm balding a little bit, so it's like, you know.
I mean, I'm lucky because I no matter how crazy my hair gets, it doesn't bother me. So
you kind of got that like Claudio Sanchez vibe going on, where it just kind of like comes in your hair on stage, in your face on stage and shit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, his was crazier, or his is crazier.
Yeah, dude, his is long and like just curly, like it just.
Yeah.
What's that one guy? It's not the Addams Family, is it? Or is it Cousin It? Or is it another?
I'm actually not really. I know what the Addams Family is, but I never watched that show or movie. If it's a movie or a show, I'm not sure which one.
I think Cousin It was like a guy just covered in hair. Like he just kind of reminds me of him or whatever. I don't know. It was just so random. But yeah, he kind of reminds me of that. What do you? So are you like you've been on the West Coast, Midwest your entire life? I'm assuming that's pretty cool.
I was born in El Paso, Texas, and then I moved to Las Vegas when I was really little.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year ago I moved to Los Angeles. But right now I'm in Las Vegas again because my whole family lives here. So
that's cool.
When the tour got canceled, which is the day that it was supposed to start, I packed up my stuff and just came to Vegas just because I was like, and I packed up like my whole demo station and was like, I'm probably going to be there for a while. And sure enough, I've been here for almost 2 months. Just to be closer to family. And there's significantly less cases here in Nevada than there are in Los Angeles. So there's less of a risk of getting it. So I've just been laying low. That's basically the whole point.
Yeah. You have to. One, you don't want to contract it. Two, you don't want to put it into somebody. Like, if you do, you don't want to put it in your family's harm's way. Like depending on like if they have health issues or not. I've been quarantined myself for these past 2 months. Started the podcast during this, kind of like shed the light on the industry that I'm mostly invested in. But dude, like I see people out there all the time, like shaking hands or talking. I'm like, well, it's not going to help anything. Can we just like be a team? Can we be a fucking team sport here and just stay the hell inside? Like, what the fuck?
If I was in California, because if I was I live with Donnie. Him and I have an apartment out there, and if I was there, I'd be doing the same thing I'm doing here. I just would be away from my family. I wouldn't be able to go out. I wouldn't be able to go do the things that we would want to do, or try to build our careers musically. That's all shut down for now. So, better to be around family than to be doing the same thing over there and not be able to see them.
I'm kind of a little upset because John Howe, our mutual friend, he has his working papers for the United States, but he could basically only work with Fearless. So, because I was trying to get him on for more content, and he's like, "Nah, I can't." So I'm going to start like a petition that we got to start getting going around. I would love to see him do a Nova Charisma or even a Royal Coda. Royal Coda like animated music video, dude. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, and Fearless keeps him busy. That's one thing that sucks about being in Vegas is because I hang out with John a lot when I'm in Los Angeles. And that's one thing I tell him all the time. I'm like, dude, I fucking miss hanging out with you. It sucks that we can't hang out right now.
Yeah, and he's in California too, which is crazy because he was in the UK most of his life. So, I mean.
I know. But now we hang out. Yeah, I go over to his apartment all the time. He lives with Sam Helene, who shoots all the Dance Gavin Dance music videos. And I hang out with them all the time, or every chance that I get. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the bummers. But we wouldn't be able to do much anyway if we were out there because everything's closed. And one of our favorite things to do is go to Malibu, go to the beach, or just go hiking, and all that's closed right now. So we wouldn't be able to do that even if I was in California right now.
Yeah, exactly. Just got out of the house. I've never been to California before, so I mean,
Whoa.
that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah, when you get a chance, you got to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to very soon. I mean, once this is done and over with, I'll probably take into consideration. Or if I don't know, or if the band that I'm in starts touring out there. We were actually going to go out to California to record with Bo from Seosin. Unfortunately,
nice.
That kind of just fell through, dude. Not because of the pandemic, but just decisions and our budget. I don't think really applied to it. But he was really cool with us. We talked briefly, nothing serious, and he's got a great studio out in California. California's just. Dude, it's a gorgeous area. I've never been out there personally, but so you go back and forth from California to Vegas. How does that? I mean, it can't be that far of a drive. Maybe it's like 2 hours, right? I don't know.
3. It's with traffic. It's like 4.5. But if you do it at night, it's 4 hours. Or Donnie said he did it in 3.5 hours during this pandemic because there was no traffic on the road.
So is that convenient for you to go out to California like that to drive back and forth between there and Vegas with with the bands? I'm sure it is.
Well, I do it for family. So I come back to Vegas because I'm mostly in California now.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I spend. I prefer to spend more of my time, but I really only come back to Vegas ever since I moved to Los Angeles. I only come back to hang out with my family. That's really the only reason. There's nothing here in Vegas for me career-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I only come back here to visit family.
I was going to say also there's slot machines. I didn't think you were going to say, for music, but I was going to say you have slot machines and fucking casinos.
No, I don't gamble anymore either.
I don't blame you. Neither do I. Cheers to that. I don't fucking do that. I mean, we have a couple. You
guys have one across the bridge, right? No, you guys have one in Philadelphia. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, Sugar House. We have that, and then we have another one up in Bucks County, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. It's not too far from Philly. It's called Parks. Yeah, that's like one of the.
I've been to. If that's the casino I'm thinking of, Sugar House.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right near the water.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to that a couple times. Yeah. And I fucking lose every time.
Dude, oh my god, it's fucking bullshit, man. They rig that shit on purpose. They know they do. Philadelphia is gorgeous. I think I don't know if you got to venture around Philly for a little bit, but it's one of those historic landmark cities.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a lot going on for them, which is cool. I think that brings in the tourism, dude. There's I'm gonna forget. I want to get so much shit for this when someone from Philly is listening. There is a park. I wish I could just Google it, but I don't want to because it'll take up too much time. But they have these, dude. It's crazy. They have these hammocks and trees. They're like all fucking sewn up and shit. It's gorgeous, and they have these huge LED lights that just come down, and it just kind of like shimmers throughout this whole park. It's fucking gorgeous. Like I think just Philly's just creative like that. It's like that artsy.
Yeah, I love Philly. Philly's one of my favorite East Coast cities.
Have you hit all of the states for touring for gigs, or do you just pass some of them? Do you ever play in Kansas? Or do you just pass it?
Kansas.
I don't know.
We haven't played Kansas in a long time.
Oh, so you did play? Yeah.
We've played Kansas, but we haven't played in a long time. We played Kansas City, Missouri, all the time, but yeah, it's been a while since we played the state of Kansas.
Yeah, I've never really been out. I mean, when we were touring for Warped Tour, it was Midwest, so we did play in Kansas. We went from Indiana all the way down to Texas for 11 days, which was cool. That was a pretty fucking cool experience. What's it called? So, do you guys before we get out of here? First of all, I want to appreciate you coming on and taking the time.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we'll do more in the future. Maybe we'll get you and John on at the same time.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah, let's
John brings out a different character in me because he's truly one of the funniest fucking people I know, and so part of me wants to try to keep up with his level of comedic. I don't know, but yeah, he definitely brings out a different character in me because he's just so fucking funny.
Did you see his Instagram that he posted the other day with the pop? with the Pink Panther theme song.
Yeah,
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 stands behind the corner, dude. Like shit like that fucking makes me die laughing. I'm like,
yeah,
that's creative
yeah.
as fuck.
He,
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
have to do
he's
something
super
like with
creative.
us too, and then like we'll probably talk about like something else that we're like I don't know. It could be with what we're doing presently, or we could just like go into something else, like and just fucking chill for a minute.
Yeah.
So is there anything you for the viewers that are listening? I appreciate everybody joining. There's about 16, 17 of you. This is rad. Thank you, Supreme Leader Tommy. Why I can't pronounce that last word. That's cool. It's probably his last name. Is there anything that you guys are for Nova Charisma, World Coda, whatever? Is there anything you guys want to, if you want to share, like what's going on in the near future
Um,
after the quarantine?
there's nothing right now because
Okay.
we can't
I
say.
know. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we just can't. We don't know when things will be opening back up. So
Hmm.
once things start picking back up, people start playing shows, and there's not a second wave, or there's not a spike in cases because they uh, ease some of the restrictions.
Hmm.
Then we'll know what to start saying. But as soon as we can start saying that we're going to do stuff, we're going to say it.
True.
But right now, there's nothing. So as far as that goes, I would just say thank you for anybody who has streamed or listened or bought a vinyl or bought a record or just has supported it in any way.
Hmm.
So
Congratulations, man. Nova is killing it with these singles, dude. I love it.
thank you.
I love
Thank
it.
you.